Good morning and welcome to CAD-1's HVAC Zoning and Energy Analysis in Revit. My name is Stan Henney here at CAD-1, but more importantly today we have our Revit ME, or Tony Crawford, ME, our Revit specialist, HVAC MEP specialist, and here to do this presentation. And I'm just coming off a little bit of a downturn, so forgive me if I'm a little bit spacey. I don't mean to be.
Yeah, I was wondering if I should help you out with some of those letters. There's like 3 in a row there.
Yeah, I know it. Anyway, we've got a good little audience here today, so hope you get some good stuff out of this. And this will be recorded and up on our YouTube page in a few days. So first, we'll go through a couple of the housekeeping items here. We have the go to meeting slide, which probably most of you know by now, but if you want to change from telephone to mic and speakers or vice versa, you can do that. You want to minimize the console so you can see the entire screen, you hit the orange and white arrow there. I'm going to ask you the raise your hand button. Could each of you kind of, if you can hear us, raise your hand just to make sure that we're coming through. There we go. There's a few folks.
I'm like, I don't see any hands yet. It's a little
okay. Well, I'll assume that everybody's can hear us then. Most importantly is the ask questions. We take your questions, try and get them answered in context. If you'll type them into the ask your questions box there. So, and
I'm going to launch a couple of polls. I know I don't always do that, but just to see who's in the audience today, just so I can kind of customize it as we're going through. So just click on the answer that's right for you. How long have you been using Revit? Looks like it's a tie right now. The initial clickers were all the new users, 0 to 1 year. Wow, it's an exact tie. I'm going to close this while the numbers are still exactly even. Sorry, it's going to jump around for a second. So there it is.
That's amazing.
That's hard to do. So now we switch to the other one and launch this. So yeah, screen flashes for a second. And then just what discipline? I would have put in more disciplines, but I'm limited to 5 answers. So just if you're mechanical, electrical, plumbing, other technology, architectural. Wow, a lot of plumbers and mechanical. Oh, this lets you do more than one apparently, because the numbers aren't adding up. Okay. Now we have one electrical.
Okay, good.
I'm just going to give it just a second. Looks like the numbers have stopped moving.
So I recognize quite a few of the names on the attendee panel today, so know what some of you do, certainly. And it's always nice to see you, Gene, John, James, all of you. I won't name all the names, but I recognize many of you. We appreciate it.
Alrighty, let me go ahead and get started. Did you have?
Well, there's a few housekeeping items I want to go through from the Autodesk point of view, just so people are aware of them. We're trying hard to keep people aware of these things because they have a lot of gravity to them when it comes to your Autodesk software, and not our favorite things always to talk about, but we have to make you aware. On March 28th, Autodesk will be raising the subscription renewal price on some software again this year. Not all the products, but several of them. And so if you have an imminent renewal, or if you have a renewal that's within 90 days of March 28th, say March 28th, April, May, June, late June-ish, mid to late June-ish, you have a renewal, you might want to talk to us about getting that in before the price goes up. It's not terribly drastic, but it's a little bit of money. Money's money. And then, as probably many of you are starting to hear, next year at this time, by February 1st or January 31st, Autodesk will no longer be upgrading any software. I don't know who thinks these things up, but they do.
Well, there'll be new software released, but you won't be the price will be different.
Right, and you can move between versions. Say you have some Navisworks that you want to move over to Building Design Suite or something, you can certainly do that. But if you have an older version, say a 2011 version, and you want to bring it current after February 1st of next year, you won't be able to do those things anymore. All your software that you are actively using will need to be on subscription. We want to make sure that, we know that a lot of you have some software assets from the downturn that may be sitting on the shelf in cold storage, and it's pretty valuable stuff. So let's, give us a call. Let us sit down with you and kind of plan this out so that we plan for growth in the future. Make sure that you have kind of a cost analysis so you know what you may need, what you may not, what it may cost you, what the catch-up time is, so forth and so on. It's not terribly imminent right now, but believe me, February 1st will come around quicker than any of us can say boo.
So it's a year away, but then you have some time for budgeting and planning. Now, just let me check and make sure I'm understanding it right, Stan. So if my company has a handful of licenses and they're on subscription, I'm always on subscription, I always pay for that. Is there any change for me?
No, that's the good part. But let's say if your company has those seats that you're actively using, but during the downturn you still have five seats left over from the days that
so I had 15 seats, but I've chose to back down. I've only been renewing 10 of those.
Right,
15.
and you're on subscription for those 10. There won't be any change and it won't affect you. But those other 5 seats have a pretty hefty value, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $40,000 collectively. And if you don't see yourself growing and don't see yourself needing those seats in the future, well, you may want to just let them rest. But if you see yourself growing, new projects coming in, maybe you just want to protect the asset value of those things so that you don't have to buy a whole brand new seat when you're ready to actually need that software. Talk to us about it. Let us help you plan. We're doing this for several companies now, and let us help you plan what you might need so that we make it as financially painless as these things can possibly be anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, enough of that. Let's get on to the fun stuff here.
Alrighty, I'm going to take a look at it as soon as there it goes, screen switches. Energy analysis in Revit, and I'm going to focus on, I called it 3 major types of energy analysis in Revit. I'm going to focus on the third one, especially since the audience is 100% mechanical MEP. I didn't see any electrical. I didn't see any architectural. We did have a little bit of electrical. The first 2 methods are both use Green Building Studio.
Tony, I'm gonna say real quick that just for those of you who are interested in the couple top methods more extensively, Brian Juge did do a presentation on that back about a month ago, and that is on our YouTube channel. So we do have some information that may be helpful to you in the top 2 categories as well. So
excellent, that's good, because I'm going to go very quickly over those, and I didn't have a chance to tune into Brian's webinar. I might have been teaching for that one because I watched the last one he did.
Yeah.
And that was useful. So the first couple methods, both of them use Green Building Studio, and I think you've been able to do conceptual masses for a while, which is great at the very beginning, the earliest stages of a project. You don't even need to have walls, doors, windows, floors, roofs. You can just start with conceptual masses, and I can build one of those really quickly. I think just looking at the audience and stuff, I won't even create one of those, and that's also in the other webinar. So if the very earliest stages, we have a campus of buildings, or we have one building, it's going to be just a rectangle or whatever shape it is, a cube. I can turn that into just masses, have 4 walls or a cube and put floors in there, put walls in there. I can upload that to Green Building Studio, and with some additional information, actually let's take a quick look at that.
While you're teeing that up, John, the Green Building Studio, excuse me, I don't want to start coughing here. The Green Building Studio is a tool that's available for those who are on subscription for Building Design Suite or Revit or whatever, and it's a cloud-based analysis tool that allows you to upload the Revit model, whether it's, as Tony said, in massing phase or various phases of development, and kind of run an energy analysis on the model, you know, based on orientation, weather, utility costs in the area, this, that, and the other. It is part of your subscription. It doesn't cost you anymore, and you know, pretty useful tool. It's a, you know, a little bit arbitrary at times, but pretty good tool.
Yeah, considering how early in the process that you can do an energy analysis, this can be useful. It's not super detailed. It doesn't give you quite the hard numbers that you might be looking for a loads analysis, which is why I'm going to focus more on the third one that does give you the hard numbers. But I could just have a very, very general building shape, and, well, okay, I'm going to get to the, getting ahead of myself. Let me go back to, oops, 1 second. There it is. So that's the conceptual masters lets you do it very early in the design phase. I'll cover those in just a moment. The second one, once you have a building, at least a building shell, as long as you have the building shell, walls, floors, roofs, that's basic. Well, you need a couple of other things in there. You do want to have a location and a building type at a minimum, but then you can also load that up to Green Building Studio, and that can even at that point, you can now use the materials of the wall. So you can, when you're first laying it out, and this is, the first two are probably used more by the architects, and the third one more by the MEP. But I also wanted you to be aware of these, and you can see what's in there. You can see what these can do. And I'll run through very brief. I'll do the second one for sure. I started to do the first one. I don't have a mass loaded, so I'll just spare you the time of watching me click on files and drawing just a cube, putting some floors and some curtain walls on there. The second one adds the ability to use building elements, like real building elements from the building that's being designed. Those walls, are they glass, are they wood, are they brick, is it CMU, is it poured concrete, whatever it is, what's the floor, it starts to use those properties for the analysis. And that's great for gross comparisons. Okay, here's our building, here's the general idea so far. What happens if we increase the glazing, more windows? What happens if we rotate this building 30 degrees off of facing south? What happens if we put the, you know, maybe it's, I'm looking at putting it in a big major corporate office. Do I want to put it in Denver or Dallas? You know, looking at different things. The third one is a heating and cooling loads analysis, and that one gives us specific values for HVAC. That one I'll take a look at in a little bit more depth. So starting off with the first one, the conceptual masses. Oh, pardon me. Just you can see on the screenshot there, and that's what I was going to pull up in Revit. It looks at masses, mass exterior wall, interior walls, roofs, floor, slab. Those are just a very conceptual blocks. You can lay out buildings, lay out a campus of buildings, just get the general idea. You know, if you're playing Frank Gehry or whatever, laying things out. And you can see on the left side is what you have in Revit. On the right side is what it's going to use for an analysis, which I can change those. So what I'm doing, I've gone to the Analyze tab of the ribbon, and then I'm going to take a look at the energy settings. And then for the first two, what we'll do is we'll run the energy simulation, is where the Green Building Studio is. So taking a look at the energy settings, I have this box here. The top half of this box is generally the more specific, probably the details where you're going to want to look.
Yeah, Tony, these are this information that you have in the box here on the screen with the red lines around it and so forth is being pulled from the floor plan. You know, that's actually the building model. We've got it in overhead view, so it's being pulled from that building. Yeah,
the top ones would pull more from what's in your file, what's in your building. The lower box is more conceptual. In fact, I'm going to take a look at this. I'm going to click on the edit. Okay, it looks like this. Click on the edit button, and here I can say, okay, well, if I have exterior walls in my conceptual, which I am already beyond that in this file, do I want to use lightweight construction? There's my drop down. Low insulation, high insulation, no insulation. Just what do I want to use for this very gross analysis, very large scale, just take the building as a whole building analysis. So what do I want my exterior walls to look like? What do I want my roof, my floor? What kind of materials, what kind of insulation do I want to use for that? Cool. I only have three options for floors. I set those options, and for the first one, I think I get I can look at a couple things, and the more information you put in here is better. For the first conceptual analysis, I want to at least have a building type. I'll say this one is, I'll just pick multifamily. I can say it's in Boston, or, oh, let's give it a location. I can use the mapping service. I usually like to start with the city list, so I can type DEN. Takes me right to the one above Denver. I can start. It's just a quicker way to scroll through with the keyboard, especially if you're in, I don't know, Phoenix, Scottsdale, something that starts with the lower half of the alphabet. Actually, let's see. I type DA. See if I can find Dallas.
There it is, right above Denver.
Yep. So I can choose from this list. I can also, once I'm in there, I can go to the mapping service, and I like to use the find it in the list first. It's easier to find rather than scrolling. But then I can scroll around. I think we had a conference, I don't know, somewhere around here. I'm just going to drop it in there. And so I can put in a very specific location. This can be used for the analysis. It can also be used for the solar studies, for solar heat gain, although moving it just that, I don't know, 10 miles probably is not going to make a huge difference. Unless it's in the mountains. Say if I put my building in Denver or if I put it in Blackhawk. It's not a large distance mile-wise, but you're going to run into different weather. If I put it in Dallas versus 10 miles away from Dallas, not a whole lot of difference in the weather. So a couple of things that you want to do this whole building conceptual. You want to give it a building type and a location. And that's the minimum that you would want to use. The more, especially in the bottom half of this, the more that you do add will make it better, make it more accurate. But let's just hit OK on this.
But in your early phases, you may not know what that is, so you keep it fairly general, and then as you move through the project, you tighten those things up.
Exactly, and that's what the kind of the 3 phases that I have on here. And then I would run the simulation. I'm not going to click that quite yet. I'm just going to save you the time because I'm going to do it on the second step. And then you'd upload that and run it. You get back an analysis, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. Alrighty, so the second one you can do.
It's fairly easy as long as you're online or your system's online so it can access the internet. It's not like you have to really work hard to go find Greenbuild Studio and so forth. If you're, as you saw there, if you're in Revit, there's the tool that just says upload the analysis, and it goes and it plunks it into Greenbuild Studio and it's ready to go. So that's very nice and convenient.
Yeah, it's built in. You do have to sign in, or maybe you just said that.
I mean, you have to do a little bit, but
yeah,
it's not like a lot of things overly complicated.
No, it's pretty simple, and it gives you back a lot of visuals, a lot of charts, comparisons. How much electricity will this building use versus gas? Assuming with certain assumptions, and you can go in there and change those assumptions, and that's what it's really best for, is a comparison. Well, what happens if I change this heating system type? What happens if I change my glazing? What happens if I rotate this building? What happens if I move it to the next state farther north? How much will that affect my utilities? And there's also tools in there for lead points for green certification. So this time, this is the second one, using building elements, not just the conceptual masses, but using elements from your building, uploading those to Green Building Studio. And we can do that energy analysis with elements from your live building. And again, the absolute minimum that you want to have in there is the building shell should be enclosed, or at least very close to it, walls, roofs, floors, as well as the building location and the building type, what I just looked at in Revit. And you can use conceptual masses, which I consider the first of the 3 types. You could consider both of these the same type, kind of a semantics. Or you can use Revit families, or you can use your Revit families that are in your file with their thermal properties. When that's new in 2014 is the ability to put thermal properties, R values, U values, with your building elements. So if those values are in there, you might want to take a look at using those. If you have not added those thermal properties, then you probably want to stick with just the building elements, and there's a couple places where you can override that.
Real quick, Tony, a lot of people ask us, why is the building type so important? Well, because the analysis tools put a lot of weighed on, okay, if it's an office, then most offices are occupied primarily between, say, 8 and 5. There's parameters you can set behind the scenes on that, but it makes some assumptions. Offices are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday generally, not used on weekends, whereas a multifamily type thing, there may be occupants there 24/7 versus a hospital, which, so that's why the building type is so important, because there's a lot of built-in elements that it kind of says, okay, if it's this kind of building, then it's probably used in this way.
Yeah, exactly. If it's a large commercial like a Walmart, the lights are on, or if it's 24-hour location, then the lights are on 24 hours, the thermostat's up 24 hours, or the air conditioning. Whereas maybe a residence, single family, you can turn down the furnace while you're gone or at night, and the lights are off during the day, and they're just mostly on during the evening, and you can have those different schedules. So yeah, that's that's one of the more important ones that you want to have in there. I was going to add one more thing, and then I forgot what it was. Oh, I was going to add that this one you do have to do in a live model. So actually, the way I have this file set up in Revit, I started a blank MEP file. I started a blank file from the MEP template. I linked in the architectural file like you would normally do. So I can't actually run that simulation from this file. It has to be live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this file, open the architectural building. Gives me a couple warnings, and it opens it up, because I do have to do it for my live file, otherwise it fails. So let's see, I'm in my file. There it is. I can look at different views of this, so you can see what the building looks like, just a 3D view. And let's go back to my analysis tab. And okay, I can't run it from a 3D view actually. Let me go back to a floor plan. Let me just cover what's in this energy analysis dialog box. There are two more on the left also, spaces and zones and reports and schedules. For right now, I'm going to focus on this first one, the energy analysis. So the first two buttons in there are a toggle. It just turns either conceptual masses, which in the way I have it divided down to the three types. I would use conceptual masses for the first one. It's just a toggle, switches between the two of them. And the second one is use building elements, your walls, floors, roofs. Gets a little more precise, a little more precision, a little more refined. And then I would take a look at the energy settings. So for the conceptual analysis, this is the one I was looking at earlier. If I use the conceptual constructions, I have these options down here. That's the first type. So the second one I'm going to look at is I want to set this to rooms, the detailed model. I have rooms and spaces. Come on, there it is. I could run it now. Or since I know that this building I did add some thermal properties, I can check this box to include thermal properties. And the one above does have to be set to rooms to get that option. Now it's going to pull the values from the walls, doors, floors, windows, roofs, whatever is live in my file. It's going to use those thermal properties. I can take a look at single family. Okay, so this one's already set. The building type is single family, so it uses those values like Stan was just saying. Let's just set this one to, there we go. I'm just going to call that good. And let's take a look at it. I'm going to hit OK. You would want to take a look at the values and numbers in there just for the sake of time. I'm going to hit OK. And, oops, wrong button. And I'm going to run the simulation. This is, like it says, a subscription-only feature. It sends the analytical model to Green Building Studios. It has to create an analytical model. This building is pretty small, so it shouldn't take very long. Generates a energy analytical model. There's also can be a structural analytical model. All right, successfully completed. Gives you a little bit of warning. And there's a button down here to click more. That's not a bad thing to check, especially as you're learning the process. Actually, I'll just click it now. It'll bring up the web page, formerly Wiki Help. Now it's something else, Help. And also I'm going to hit OK. So the web page that information it goes to is energy analysis using building elements. So it goes through some stuff, gives you some information, how it treats different things, how it handles gaps. Green Building Studio can handle gaps better than Revit can internally or Train Trace. There's similar settings. It gives you information on how it handles the gaps that are in there. Anyway, there's information here. If you need to do this, you can take a look at those. And it gives me, what's today, the 11th? Just put the date in there. And it's going to upload this and do an analysis on it. We'll take a look at that as soon as it's done. This might take 30 seconds because it's a pretty simple building.
Now you noticed some things on the map there earlier, and you noticed some little blue pins or flags on the map. Those are weather stations, and Greenbelt Studio has a very extensive list of weather stations. Basically, it's pulled from aircraft data, so they're roughly about every 16 miles, so gives you a very tight analysis tool, unless you're in the Antarctic. We just recently found
there's only one weather station there?
They don't have any.
Really?
We were working with a project. They're helping some folks at McMurdo down in Antarctica, and they didn't have any weather down there.
There's zero.
Yeah.
That surprises me.
But you can build your own, too. It's not the easiest thing to do. But anyway, that's what you saw there as we're waiting for this to kind of come back up. Tony's going to get into the next phase. There's things like if you're an architect and you're doing analysis, you're probably going to turn on rooms. You folks that are in the MEP world are going to be more interested in spaces, some things like that, which we'll cover in just a little bit here. So,
alrighty. So let me jump to the. Oops, I was already in that. There we go. Confusing myself. So at the minimum one, you have this. You can use the Conceptual Masters, or you can use the Revit families in your project with the thermal properties. And finally, this can also be exported to other analysis programs. I'm kind of watching. I thought it would come up by now. I might have missed it. There's a little pop-up in the lower right of the screen.
One of the things, Tony, you mentioned you needed a live model in these phases, and one of the things that's nice about that is that you can, as Tony said, it'll take the actual thermal properties of CMU or wood floors versus stone floors, things like that, and allow you to use them. So you can set up models with design variables, and you say, okay, if we put in CMU versus some other wall type, what's it going to do, and run several types of analysis at once.
There you go. It's done. I just didn't see the pop-up come through.
Stalled long enough there.
Yeah, exactly. So there's the one that I put today's date on there, 3/11. So if I take a look at this, I have some basic charts. It gives me the cost by lights, equipment, space cooling, vents, space heating. It breaks it down by the total energy, also by fuel. Oh, now it tells me there's a little pop-up down on the right. Now it tells me that it's ready. And if you go there prematurely, you can see the numbers changing. It tells you that all these, there's a whole columns of numbers that are 50%, 60% done, 80% done, and it's kind of interesting watching those numbers. So I have charts for different, I can go down to each individual pieces. Is it a wall, is it a frame, is it a roof? How are these skylights? What are the, what's the energy load? How much does it cost? Does this skylight cost me by month? So you can see in the colder months, the skylights, a lot of heat's escaping out of there. I can also, let me go back up to the list, and I'll just be kind of quick with this. I have a lot more charts in here. And data, I have an annual energy cost, annual CO2 emissions, life cycle energy. Where's the, somewhere it gives me carbon, I thought it was on the left. Oh, there it is. Energy use. There it is, large SUV equivalent. So this building uses the equivalent of 4.6 SUVs a year of its carbon footprint or of its energy use.
Now, I think that's a little daffy.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Because what kind of SUV is it? A Lincoln Navigator?
Is it a Cadillac?
That's a little...
Is it an Escape? Is it a Ford Escape hybrid?
Nothing empirical about an SUV.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
But it's... I don't know. Make of it what you will.
Exactly. So I have additional charts in here. I have building details and assumptions, which so I can change some of these assumptions. I can run things again. So I can update the building assumptions. I have on these annual fuel use, electricity end use. If I go to the detailed view, it doesn't actually change a whole lot. It just categorizes things as HVAC as your pumps, and space cooling and fans, I think, go together in one category. So, but it does break down. It's percentages. What this is really good for is comparison. If I change a certain variable, if I use a different type of heating and cooling, if I use a different type of windows, how much will that affect my I think this last tab is what no, that's not what I'm looking for. How much will that affect my project? Where can I get the biggest gain just by changing? You know, it's not necessarily hard numbers, but they're comparable numbers, because if I'd make one change, I'd change the glazing type or trees outside of it. I don't know. I can see compare. Does that affect it 1% or 11%? How much does that affect my? So I can. Where should I spend my money? Where should I make the changes?
And you can, via the GBXML format, you can move this data over to things like EOS2 and things like that are, much more hard industry stats. So it's a good tool.
Yeah.
Tony, we've got maybe a half hour, and I know the bulk of this was on the third category.
Are you saying I need to hurry up?
No, I'm just saying I don't know if you need to hurry up, but I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to cover that part of it.
Sure, whatever. I'll say that. Yes, if you did say that, you would be correct. Let me hurry up. So I'm going back to my MEP project. I'm going to reload the architect's file. So now I'm back on the MEP side. Now the building is linked in. I'm no longer live in the architect's file. So I can see I have spaces. I have the building linked in. Let me jump to my slides. So the third type is the heating and cooling loads. Within this one, we can perform a heating and cooling loads analysis, determine the energy demands of the building. I'm going to go into a little more detail on this one. Obviously, I probably said that once or twice. And maybe the most important thing to remember about this one is if you put good information into it, you'll get good information out of it. If it's poor assumptions going into it, you're going to get poor accuracy coming out of it. You really need to have an accurate, complete building model with accurate data to get accurate results. Some of the things that are going to affect your HVAC loads are the spaces. You need to have spaces. You need to have spaces in every space, including plenums, attics, basements, anything that's enclosed by the building, whether it's heated or cooled or not. Zones, you want to have the zones in there. There's not a lot of information with zones, but they need to be in there. This is where you get your outdoor air information, which can definitely affect your loads, your analysis. You want to look at the building location and the building type, just like in the previous two. That's going to matter a lot. Is it in Denver or is it in Dallas? The air conditioning load is going to be quite a bit different. And is it, like Stan was saying, is it a residential? Is it multifamily? Is it a 24-hour Walmart or a hospital? Because you can't really turn the furnace down in a hospital, or just, the lights don't go off that much at night. Building service type, is it forced air? Is it radiant floors? As well as the outdoor air contribution, the space type, and there's other information with that. So let's take a look at some of the specifics on this, and I'll go through each of these steps. A couple things to keep in mind. Phasing does matter. If you have an existing building, a new construction, or if there's multiple phases of construction, you do want to do your analysis in the right phase, because that's the building materials that it looks at. So let's take the heating, cooling loads. I'll just start on. I'm just going to start on this list. There's my list. I'm going to look at the building type and the building location. All right. There we go. Back in my file, I'm going to go right back to these energy settings, which you can also get to on the Manage tab, Project Information. You can get to at least those two ways. There might be a third place to get to this button. I have my project information, organizational name, the owner, is it the project name, is it Tony's Memorial Hospital, whatever it is. I also have right above that I have energy settings. Let's take a look at those. And here's some of the same values that I could get to from the I could get to the same thing from the dialog box. So what kind of a building is this? I want to make sure that's right. Was it single family? Single family. Because I know this is going to be a single family. It could be like a bed and breakfast or a cabin. a cabin. What else could this be? It's basically living. It's not commercial. It's not retail. It's not, and you can see some of the other categories in there. It's not a school or university. It's not a sports arena. It's not a warehouse. Anyway, it's a single family. The location, let's take a look at the location. Let's see what we get in here. This one I've already set to be right about, oh, okay, let me change this one. Let me set this to be, come on, I'm going to start with, whoops, I'm going to start with Denver, and then I'm going to go into the mapping service and set this one to be, and if you're really careful, you can scroll and drop at the same time. We'll just make this Idaho Springs. All right, looks like I'm on a street anyway, or at least in the valley anyway, not on the side of a mountain. So we've got those two sets, the building location, the building type. Let's take a look at the building service type. What is, there it is, what kind of service? Do I have radiant heater, do I have forced air, be a single duct? Just whatever is appropriate for your project, but this is going to matter. Let's make this one a water loop heat pump. The next, I have building construction. Building construction is also in here. We do this two different ways. The building construction right now and up until Revit 2014, this is where it pulled this data from. So exterior walls, if I want it to be 8-inch lightweight concrete block, no, for my analysis for this building, it's going to be frame wall with 3-inch insulation, for example. So I've got a 0.077 U value, so pretty decent R value. Interior wall, ceilings, floors, slabs. Let's say the slab for this one, you know, I know it's going to be up in the mountains a little bit. Let's do something with a little more insulation. Edge slab, let's do that one. So anyway, if I do my analysis, normally it pulls these values. This is where it's pulling it from. It does not use, and in the past it has not used, the architect's building doesn't use their walls, their R values, because they didn't have RE values in the past. And I'll come back in a moment to show you where you can do that now in 2014. So, set the building type, location, service type, construction. I want to place all spaces. I've done most of this.
Tony?
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you get too far off the building construction, John asked, did he say that we don't use building construction in 2014? And you said something about up until 2014. What did you mean there?
Until, unless I'm wrong, and that's, you know, happened every once in a while, there's building construction. And so, you know, I should go back and look. Now that I've said it, I'm getting paranoid that I've misspoke. But before 2014, I couldn't use, the materials did not have an R value in them, and I can't pull up a wall right now.
Okay.
We could use.
So basically what you're saying is that in the 2014 version, there was a lot more value, R value, and so forth added to the materials.
Yes.
Than previously. Not that you don't need to use it in 2014 or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
in 2014, now we have an option because there are thermal values as part of the architect's walls and slabs and windows, whereas in older version, thermal properties just weren't in there.
Yeah.
Or they weren't accessible if they were. Now they can be changed and updated. So this is the way we've been doing it, and I'll come back in a few minutes and, well, the short version, just uncheck these override boxes, and then it uses the materials that are part of that family. So let's see, I've set these values. I want to place spaces, and there they are. I've already placed spaces in here, so I'll save you that. Do you want to place spaces in every space? You can skip, let's see if I have, see if I can show you. All right, let me just grab a space. Select all instances. Well, let me do that. Anyway, I have some sliver space in here, but I'm not able to highlight it very quickly and easily. You don't need to have them in the sliver spaces as long as it's less than 6 inches, 12 inches across the space, and Revit can handle those. If it's too big, Revit doesn't handle it quite accurately.
Know what to do with it.
Exactly. It doesn't know, is this open to the outdoors? Is this a gap between two different buildings? So you want to place all spaces, including the plenums. If we have time at the end, I might demonstrate that. So above, say, a drop ceiling, there's, you've got rooms in the architect has rooms in there, you place spaces in there. You want to go into those and make sure there's a space element because that's what's being used for the energy analysis, for the load calcs. And then you want to set the space properties. I'll demonstrate this briefly. So let's say I have, okay, a kitchen and dining area. I've selected that space. I want to look at the space. It tells me it's level 2. It's got an offset. I've got ceiling reflectance, wall reflectance for the electrical, for lighting. I have electrical loads, mechanical loads. Let's take a look at, there we go. It's occupiable. It's condition type. Is this heated and cooled? Is it heated only, cooled only? Is it naturally vented? Maybe in atrium. And the space type. Right now it just says building, because Revit's got to pull something until you tell it otherwise. So it's pulling the building default. So it's pulling single family default values. But for this one I want to say, let's see, dining area, family dining, for example, just to go quickly. So I want to tell it this is a dining area, or I could say it's food preparation. I have a food preparation area. Probably not the first one, but if those values aren't quite right, I can go in here and say, you know what, this one's going to be about 45 square foot per person. Or the heat gain, maybe I can change that, latent heat gain, the lighting load, occupancy schedule. These are all values for that space, which is a kitchen and dining room in this case. Because a kitchen is going to have a lot different cooling requirements than a storage room. An IT room is going to have different cooling requirements than a living room or a classroom. I can look at the 3 different schedules. Occupancy schedule. I can go into this and choose, well, it's not a restaurant. It's going to be residential lighting all day. I can go in and actually change these and say maybe at 8 a.m. it would be 60% usage, and 9 a.m. 60% usage. I can change those values. I can change the lighting schedule for the lighting, not just the occupancy. I can also make a copy of this. And, oops, there it is. Sorry, I made 2 of them. And then I can rename those. So I can, I'll just go quickly. I'll just put, you can put your company name in there, your initials, whatever, or project name. So, okay, this one is going to have a different occupancy schedule. Say, we get up a little bit later in this cabin. I can, oops. Sorry, can't type today. I can, obviously, there we go, too many decimals. I can, it's not until 10 a.m. that the lights are normally on. So I can go in here, I can save these, I can rename them, I can create new schedules. I can customize this and use them again later. So what else is in here? I have schedules, construction type. This is where, on the overall building, I don't have any options to copy or rename. So I can say that this room uses, maybe this one's a cantilevered floor. So instead of the building default, I want to do something different. I don't know, I'm just going to grab that. So I can say that this space is going to be analyzed with different walls, ceilings, different properties than the rest of them. Maybe this one's, well, I think this floor is cantilevered. Well, I'm on the first floor. So I want to go through all those space elements and set those space properties.
Now, Tony, real quick, I want to mention, because I know we have the bulk of the people on this presentation are interested in the HVAC, but there were some plumbing and electrical people on as well. And there are tools for looking at water usage and electrical usage in Greenbelt Studio as well to help you kind of analyze, again, is it a single family? Is it a hospital? Is it a school? Is it a library? And certain standards are start to be applied to not only HVAC but water usage and plumbing usage and electrical usage as well. So just want to make sure that people know that those tools are available.
Yeah, and sometimes I forget those are there.
Well, the bulk of what is done with this is in the HVAC realm, but there are some pretty valuable tools for the E and the P in MEP too.
Yeah, I know. I've looked at the lighting, not so much Green Building Studios, but looked at the lighting levels. There's tools for that. I also just added zones with the last couple. You want to add HVAC zones, which are really just a combination of spaces. I know that zones made the title of this webinar, but I'm going to go over them very quickly just because we're running out of time. So if you've ever been in a project and notice I call them the spider webs, all these are lines connecting the spaces, drawing lines to my spaces. Because a zone isn't a physical thing you can click on. Spaces aren't so much either. So a zone, this is zone 1, my first floor. I just made them all into all these spaces into one zone. I do have some properties for that zone, not a lot. Cooling information, heating information, coil bypass. I'm going to look at the last one, outdoor air. Here's where I can say the outdoor air per person is, I don't know, 0.05, whoops, positive 0.05. Per area, per person, whatever values you need. You want to set those values, and I'm going kind of quickly, but you can figure those parts out. But the point of this slide is you want to have all of these settings and more. You want to make sure all of your settings are right, match your building, your property, your location, so that the analysis is using correct data when you do the next step. Was there a question?
Yeah, Tony, real quick. John asked, he missed how you set the schedules, and he asked, could you just kind of touch on that again?
The bill of materials schedule, or I guess I'm not sure which schedules. So yeah, I'll come back and I'll touch on that.
Yeah, we'll get to that at the end there, John. Thanks.
Energy settings, and I think I pointed this out at the common ones.
Lighting and occupancy was what he was.
Oh, okay, right. That's schedule. I did talk about schedule. The top couple buttons are used for the internal analysis, and they can also be used in the GML export. You can export this to train trace, to carrier HAP, to DOE, and I don't know what other ones. The lower settings in this dialog box are generally used for the conceptual mass analysis. So let's run one of these heating and cooling loads. So I've got this in there, and I'm actually done with this dialog box. I'm going to go over to the left and look at my heating and cooling loads. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And once again, I have a chance to change some of these values. Whoops. The building type, the location, the project phase. Phasing is important. The building service type, construction, everything's in there. And I can also go, okay, I only made one zone, space by space. And again, down at the bottom, I'll select kitchen and dining. There's my food preparation. I overrode the construction type. I have some loads in there. I can take a look at these, and you can see the green. This is what's being analyzed. This is what's being exported if you're exporting in the GBXML. Not really furniture, doors, windows, but the spaces and all the data that goes with them and is contained in them, and it knows what surfaces are bounding these. So I'm going to go to make sure I set this to be a simple report just because it goes a little bit quicker. I'm going to hit calculate, and we can take a look at what one of those looks like. Well, that was nice and quick. So there's my project name, the date it was run, the type I have. Is my peak cooling load, the peak cooling month and hour. I have some checksums. This is my HVAC loads analysis. Doesn't have the pretty charts, but it has hard numbers. This has been run once. There we go. Loads report. I can go in here. I can rename this loads report 1. Call it baseline. Internal materials. Whatever you want to call it. This makes sense for you. And then you can come back, make some changes. You get another update from the architect, refine your data, and run it again and compare these. In fact, I'm going to run mine again. I'm going to make a change because you want to be aware of changes that can affect the loads analysis. And then you can run it again. Rerun it as many times as necessary. Are we okay? I don't have a whole lot of time. I could, for example, go into the architectural file and move a ceiling down and see how that affects it. Now I have a larger plenum, I have a larger airspace at the top, and I was hoping I had time to do that one. I'm not going to have time to do that, but then I could show you that that would create a gap without a space in there, like say a plenum space, and Revit has to assume that, well, if you did not place a space there, that must be open to the outdoor air. And sometimes that's going to be true, but a lot of times you need to go put a space in there to get an accurate analysis. And I did cover that previously in a different webinar. So what I'm going to do here, I can look at the energy settings where I was at earlier on the project information. I can also access the same energy settings here. And on this case, where's my building construction? I'm going to look at my building construction. I'm going to take a look at this. And I'm going to uncheck every override. So instead of using the values that I've put in as the engineer, I'm going to use the values that the architect put in. So this is going to use the values from their file, from their model. I'm going to go back right to the same dialog box. I'm going to calculate, and let's take a look at these values again. I'm going to rename this one. Let's put one. Oops. Revit materials. So on this first one, Revit materials, what's my peak cooling total load? 73,000 BTUs. All right. If I go back to the baseline, it is 42,000 BTUs. So just that one change. I only changed that one dialog box. I just unchecked all my materials. It cut it not quite in half, but that's a pretty significant difference. Mm-hmm. Just by making that one change, you can see that. Now you want to know, obviously, do you want to trust those materials? That's going to be up to you. And does the architect, did they put the time in there? Did they look at everything? Then that might be a good option to use. So, okay, I'm kind of winding down.
Well, we got the question from John about schedules.
Oh,
again,
yes.
If you want to answer that real quick, I want to bring up Autodesk will be releasing the 2015 versions of your software, whatever that might be, Building Design Suite, Premium, Ultimate, Revit, in some form or fashion, whatever you might have, roughly around the end of March, the 1st of April. They haven't given us a release schedule yet, whether they're just going to release it all on one day or whether they're going to do like they've done in the past, and it will kind of trickle out over 2-3 weeks. So as soon as we get that, we'll be sending out things, emails and so forth that try and outline that for you. But the most important thing I want people to know, because we get dozens of calls this time of year, why am I not getting my software box? Why don't you send it to me? Blah, blah, blah. Very legitimate questions, we understand, but at the same time, Autodesk policy is electronic download. Now, if you want software, a hard thumb drive or whatever, you can get them, won't cost you anything, but you do need to go to your subscription portal and log in on the Autodesk site, autodesk.com/subscription. Log in and request physical media be sent to you. If you don't, you won't get it, and then you'll be mad at us or somebody else, and we want you to be happy campers with this stuff. So if you do need some help, we will have, as soon as we get them, we will have the instructions on exactly how to do that this year posted on our website. In the meantime, it's fairly straightforward. You just go to the subscription portal and log in and do that. We can try to help you with it, but unfortunately we can't request those physical media requests on behalf of customers. So just be aware of these things.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out. I'm sure you get those questions when it's the new releases out. Get them a lot.
Yep.
I know we get them. I put on the screen. Hopefully it's you've had a chance to take a look at that. The schedules for the lighting schedule, occupancy schedule, what's the other one? Power schedule. I need to select the space. Oh, I didn't put an arrow on that one, but I select the space and I can go to the properties of that space. One of those properties is space type. I do want to select the closest or the correct space type, and these values, from what I understand, are pulled from ASHRAE. You can choose the closest one, and then you can actually customize it. I'm going to move this a little bit. Customize the numbers, area per person, the heat gain, as well as some of the schedules. You can customize, well, those 3 schedules. And within those, you can customize those also. Up at the top, I can make a copy of it. I can make a new one. I could rename it. Oh, there we go. Some of them, if it's one of my copies, it'll let me, there we go, it'll let me delete the ones that I've made. It won't let me delete the original ones. So hopefully that answers the question. And when in doubt, honestly, there's been years where I've hesitated to ask to point this out, and years when I've started to promote it. I pressed F1 on the keyboard. When in doubt, go to the help menu. There's usable information in here. Sometimes it's not as much as you would like. Sometimes it's more than you need. But go ahead and check out the information. That looks familiar. Check out the information in the help menu. There's a lot in there. So hopefully that answered the question. And let me go back to my slides for a second. So, a quick review. I put it down as 3 ways. You could call it 2 ways. I'm sure you could divide it into 4 or 5 different methods. But conceptual masses, which are just the big, gross, grand blocks with glazing, with floors on them, those can be exported to Green Building Studio. You can also do your building elements, the specific walls, doors, floors, roofs for your building.
Materials, etc.
Yep, and now with 2014, you can use the materials with that. You can also use the materials with the heating and cooling loads analysis, either with or without. You can use your overrides or use the materials that are into that one. Oh, there it is. You can use the thermal properties from that. And always remember, the more precise input yields more precise output. The more you put into it, the more accurate you put into it, the more accurate it'll come out of it. I know I've heard of companies, we tried the analysis in Revit. It was horrible. It wasn't accurate. I'm like, well, how much time did? Well, we just hit analyze. Well, of course it was wrong. It just had default values, which are software sold around the world. It's not going to know your building, your location, your building service.
But with that said, there is also the factor that the earlier in the modeling process that you start to do this analysis,
Oh,
excuse me, Tony.
That's you're laughing at me.
I know, that's the trouble with this cough. It makes it sound like I'm giggling at everybody.
Sorry.
No, it's but the earlier on that you do it, the more latitude you have to make broader changes that affect the energy analysis, the water usage, et cetera, throughout the project. The further down the line and the tighter the materials, the glazing, so forth, get the less latitude you have to really make changes that strongly affect the analysis. Maybe you can change the glazing type, but you can't do a whole lot else at that point. So you kind of want to run this through the progress of the whole project.
Yeah, like if the client wants radiant floors and you go through all the process of CD, and at the end they say, oh, we didn't know that was going to be so expensive. Can we just go back to forced air instead of radiant floors? At that point, no.
Well, you can, but
yeah,
project-wise, but it's going to totally screw up the energy
and
space analysis and everything else.
Cost.
Yep.
Yeah, I've worked for the government for a little while and a government contractor even, and anything can be done. We can do anything. It's just a matter of time and money. How much time and money do you want to spend? So sure, we can make that change late in the process, but it would have been cheaper to do it at the beginning of the process.
If you have more questions about this, send them on to tech.support@CAD-1.com. Help me out, Tony. I'll start in a coughing jag here.
tech.support@CAD-1.com. Yep. So I'll give you just a moment to have any questions, and then we'll run through a couple other things, and I'll leave the slide up again at the end just as a closing slide. I don't see any more questions coming up.
Nope, not yet.
All right, some upcoming events. We have, actually this week, what's today, the 11th? Yep. So on Thursday, there's a couple of Revit-specific webinars. Revit Radio, and I think these are both in the afternoon. I didn't write down the time.
Yeah, Revit Radio is at 1 o'clock, and then the rendering in Revit will be at 3 o'clock on Thursday afternoon.
And Stan will be back in here for those?
I will be.
Also on March 21, there's a webinar, Revit Structure with Civil 3D. So we've got, actually all these webinars are going to be done by Brian's. The March 21, Revit with Civil 3D, Brian Judes and Brian Haley are going to be battling it out, or working together, collaborating. Yep. One or the other. Some additional events. The The top one is in April. It's at Autodesk Certification Day. If you want to get Revit certified, we have, technically they only have Revit architecture. That's all that Autodesk has available for Revit. If you want Revit MEP, I would encourage you to ask Autodesk for it. The more people ask, the sooner they'll have it. They have a Revit productivity class at the end of this month, March 31 to April. I'll be teaching that one. Thursday and Friday of that week, there's a Revit architecture advanced class. Productivity is useful for any discipline, any and all disciplines. The architecture advanced is pretty specific just for architecture. I think there's one topic in there that would be more global. There's also a Revit structure fundamentals class. And, there is I believe tomorrow night, there's a buggy, I forget the acronym, but.
It's the BIM Users Group International.
Thank you.
And Evelyn's hosting that, right?
Yep, so this one will be more of an MEP focus. It'll be at RMH. For more information, you can email me, tech.support@cad-1.com, and I can give you the specifics for that one. And I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow night. I should go and check my schedule. But if you need any more information on that, let me know.
And this has been recorded. It will be available on our YouTube site within the next few days, as soon as we can get it up on the site. It usually takes a couple days. You can access that on our website just by going to the CAD-1 site and then looking for the archives of webinars. And there you had it, Tony.
So, yeah,
there we
CAD-1
go.
Events, CAD-1 webinars.
And click on that, and then you'll see the archives, and you can cruise through that and see what we have up there. And if you click on that, it'll take you directly to the YouTube site and give you that information. Pretty easy to get to. Anyway, thank you very much. We appreciate your time and hope this was a good webinar for you.
All right.
So we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, everyone.